and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, your weekly dose of the top pro-life news and issues, all from a Catholic perspective. I'm Catherine Hadro in our Washington, D.C. studio. Thanks for joining us. In this week's show, Iowa's governor signs a pro-life bill into law, banning nearly all abortions in the state. YouTube censors abortion pill reversal videos. And this. We take you center stage to Peru's March for Life, where a group of religious sisters shared their musical gifts and life-affirming message. But first, our top story, pro-life leaders target Title X funding as a step towards defunding Planned Parenthood. Title X funding is the second largest funding stream for Planned Parenthood. It's estimated the abortion giant receives about $60 million a year from the program. Here's how counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, responded last week when EWTN News Nightly's Mark Irons asked her whether the administration will strip Title X funds away from Planned Parenthood.
I believe the president will do the right thing here, and Secretary Azar at Health and Human Services, Vice President Pence, staffers like me are very loud voices in this regard. And this president also recognizes that when you're taking the money, see, there's this ridiculous misnomer, you're defunding Planned Parenthood. No, you're restoring funding to qualified women health centers that do not perform abortion.
More than 150 pro-life U.S. House representatives and 40 senators have asked the Department of Health and Human Services to revise Title X regulations so groups that perform or promote abortion do not receive funding. Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri helped lead his Senate colleagues in sending a letter to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar. He joins us now from Capitol Hill. Senator, thank you for your time.
Hey, Catherine, nice to be with you.
Good to be with you. Senator, why did you take a leadership role in this battle over Title X funding?
Well, I think we're looking for every way we can to get the Title X money back to the original purpose, which was truly a family planning or women's health purpose, as opposed to anything that encouraged abortion. President Reagan figured out how to do this in 1988, and so 40 of my colleagues and I, a total of 41 of us, sent a letter to the president at the end of April that just said, we're asking the president to reinstate that Reagan language, which said that you couldn't co-locate a family planning provider with an abortion clinic. You know, there's 16 times as many community health centers as there are Planned Parenthood centers anyways. If you want to make this more available, if you want to make it truly what the program is designed to do, and you don't want to support the Planned Parenthood efforts, the way to do that is to do what President Reagan did and President Bush 41 continued. President Clinton made it a little harder for the Congress to undo that, but in my view still made it very possible for the president to take this action, and we hope he does.
How optimistic are you HHS will update the Title X regulations?
Well, I'm optimistic. It's the right thing to do. I think it's right in the line with the things that the president and the administration have already done. They've already worked with the Congress to reverse the out-the-door policy by President Obama that said states couldn't decertify Planned Parenthood as a Medicaid provider. That was a Congressional Review Act that the House passed, the Senate passed, and the President signed. I think some of the guidance from HHS has also reversed Obama policies that were designed to do that exact same thing. So this would be something that we know works. We know in 1991 the Supreme Court upheld that action as within the executive authority. And so let's find things that work rather than complain about what we don't have the either the votes or the framework to do. And this would be one of those things. And hopefully the administration is able to take this action and take it soon. I will point out President Reagan, in fairness, did this very late in his presidency. President Bush continued it. We'd like to see President Trump return to it.
Can you put into perspective for us, Senator, how significant defunding Planned Parenthood of this Title X funding is and the big picture goal of completely defunding the abortion giant of taxpayer federal funds?
Well, this particular funding is about $60 million. It's out of $500 million. The other funding, the funding that the states themselves could do something about, and many states are, is where you act as if and certify Planned Parenthood as a Medicaid provider. Again, that's a rule that we were able to reverse, where President Obama was trying to make it impossible for states to do that. A handful of states are already in the making progress toward doing that, and that's where about $400 million of the $500 million that goes to Planned Parenthood comes through the states. I think the states have the authority. We'd like to see pro-life legislators and pro-life governors start taking that action, and we're beginning to see that, but there are a lot of pro-life legislators, legislatures in the country that could put this particular piece of legislation on the president's desk, and we hope they do. I mean, on the governor's desk, and we hope they do that.
Senator, how do you respond to arguments that Planned Parenthood should still be able to receive Title X funding to help low-income patients with STD and cancer screenings, for example? Do those patients have other options for health care?
Well, I think the better provider is particularly for the underserved, is the federally qualified clinics. There are 16 of those for every Planned Parenthood clinic in America. I don't know of a Planned Parenthood clinic that doesn't have a federally qualified health clinic alternative. Often the Planned Parenthood clinic actually refers those kinds of services to exactly the people that we'd like to see as the principal provider of those. So hopefully we'll continue to move to where those women's health services are really done by people who are in the business of providing women's health services, not providing abortions.
Absolutely. Last year, the U.S. was one Senate vote away from defunding Planned Parenthood. Can you speak to the importance of electing pro-life lawmakers, Senator?
Well, I think this is an important issue. It's an important issue to lots of voters. It's an issue that our society has generally dealt with by not allowing your money and my money to be spent in a way that either supported or encouraged abortion. This is an area that Planned Parenthood, I think, has gotten outside the original stated purpose of the law, and we don't have the votes to return to that stated purpose of the law right now to enforce what the law originally said, but more members of Congress having that point of view helps. Taking the actions we can take right now at state legislatures and governor's offices and in the Federal Department of Health and Human Services are also among the options that are available to us as we look at the situation right now.
And finally, I want to switch topics here, Senator. Your home state of Missouri has passed a pain-capable bill in the state house, which would protect babies from abortion after 5 months of pregnancy, but it's currently being held up in the state Senate. How confident are you the state Senate will vote on the pain-capable bill? And what would it mean for Missouri to become the 21st state to pass this legislation protecting babies?
Well, I don't give a lot of advice in Jefferson City, but this is legislation that I've sponsored at the federal level. It's legislation that is overwhelmingly supported by people on all sides of this issue once they realize you're talking about babies that are far enough along in their growth that they are capable of experiencing pain. I'd like to see the Missouri legislature do it. I think there's still a great likelihood that they will, and hopefully in the last few days of the legislative session, they'll work together and get that done.
We'll be watching for that. Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Catherine.
We are now joined by a trusted pro-life expert in our Washington, D.C. studio. Autumn Christensen is Policy Director for the Susan B. Anthony List. It's good to have you back, Autumn.
Thank you.
Can you put this into context for us? How significant of a funding stream are these Title X funds?
Yeah, so the Title X program is the second largest funding stream for Planned Parenthood, nearly $60 million per year. So that funding stream is very important to their ability to recruit clients who later become their abortion clients.
Autumn, then can you clarify where will this money, this Title X money go if it's not going to Planned Parenthood? What does this mean for people's health care?
If Planned Parenthood chooses not to comply and get out of the abortion business, then the options are pretty extensive. There's already 4,000 providers within the Title X program. Planned Parenthood's only 450 of those sites. So already within the program, quite a few. And then community health centers outnumber Planned Parenthood 20-1. So there are a number of organizations out there who could step up and fill any gaps.
That's really good to hear. And Autumn, I want to get your take on this next story here. The video sharing site YouTube has reportedly suspended and now has reinstated videos from the abortion pill reversal account, citing its policy on harmful or dangerous content. Upon suspension, YouTube said it does not allow content that encourages or promotes violent or dangerous acts that have an inherent risk of serious physical harm or death. But after a review, YouTube determined the suspension was a, quote, mistake, and they reinstated it immediately. An abortion pill reversal gives a mother a second chance to save her child's life if she's already taken an abortion pill. The process has reportedly saved over 400 lives. Autumn, it's good to hear these videos are reinstated, but can you just be very clear? Is the abortion pill reversal a violent procedure?
Not at all. You know, what's violent is the abortion pill itself. And the pill, reversal pill, is the thing that can come along and help a mom who's changed her mind. It's the same drug that women take who are trying to prevent a miscarriage or during fertility treatment. It's a very routine drug.
And this kind of censorship from social media sites, we've seen this before on targeting pro-life groups, haven't we?
We have. Just a year ago, the Center for Medical Progress had a video showing Planned Parenthood's dismemberment of unborn children in a reasonable way, and that was pulled a year ago. Twitter pulled a tweet that we'd put out about Mother Teresa and pro-life activity. So this is an ongoing battle and something we have to remain vigilant about.
Absolutely, because we need to get that pro-life information out there.
That's right.
To our pro-lifers. Autumn, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest abortion provider, receives a massive amount of taxpayer dollars. Their second largest source of federal funding specifically comes from a family planning grant program called the Title X program. From that program alone, Planned Parenthood receives nearly $60 million a year. We know this, and we want to do something to cut this funding off from the abortion giant. Are you with us? If so, follow this week's call to action. Go to your computer, open up your internet browser, and type in ProLifeWeekly.com. Again, that is ProLifeWeekly.com. Here, you can send a message straight to the White House, asking them to direct the Department of Health and Human Services to make a change in Title X regulations so Planned Parenthood is defunded. This taxpayer funding stream needs to be redirected away from Planned Parenthood and other groups that refer for abortion or perform abortions. This approach of defunding Planned Parenthood of Title X funding works. We know because President Ronald Reagan did it before, and the Supreme Court upheld it. Now, let's tell President Donald Trump to take that same action and direct the HHS department to make the change in the Title X regulation. It's time to defund Planned Parenthood. You can take action and send this message to the White House by going to ProLifeWeekly.com. Again, we're asking you to take this simple step and send a message at ProLifeWeekly.com. Turning now to more pro-life news, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signs the strongest abortion regulation in the country. The fetal heartbeat bill signed into law last week prohibits abortions after the detection of a baby's heartbeat. A heartbeat is detectable around 6 weeks of pregnancy. Previously, abortion was legal until the 20th week. Governor Reynolds said she felt it was immoral to stop an innocent beating heart. An abortionist who has performed 40,000 abortions pleads guilty to criminally negligent homicide in the 2016 death of a woman who was 6 months pregnant and bled to death. Dr. Robert Rowe from Long Island now awaits sentencing. Prosecutors say Rowe did not call for an ambulance for a mother he performed an abortion on, even though there were signs she was in grave condition and collapsed in his bathroom. The abortionist reached a plea deal, meaning he'll serve up to 4 years in prison. Americans United for Life commented on the case, saying, not following best medical practices, using untrained staff, failing to properly monitor vital signs are all very common in abortion clinics across America. We go now to pro-life headlines from around the globe. Pope Francis spoke boldly in defense of life during his Regina Coeli address on Sunday. The Holy Father said love must become the constant of our existence, saying, quote, "This is why unborn children are always welcomed. That is why ultimately life must always be protected and loved from conception to its natural setting, and this is love." In the Sunday meditation, Pope Francis then also invoked the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary to help Catholics remain in the love of Jesus.
I say love them. You say vote. Love them. Vote. Love them. Vote.
In London, the March for Life United Kingdom is celebrating a record turnout from this past weekend. An estimated 4,000 people participated in March for Life UK in London, with the message that life deserves love from conception without exception. Speakers included Bishop John Wilson of Westminster and American singer Joy Villa. And in Latin America, the crowds turned up for two simultaneous March for Life events. In Peru, about 800,000 people marched on the streets to defend life. And in Colombia, an estimated 400,000 participated in 53 different cities. What a strong sign of global support for the pro-life movement. And the March for Lives around the world don't end there. On Thursday, May 10th, pro-lifers in Canada took to the streets in Ottawa for Canada's March for Life. To hear the latest on what you need to know about the pro-life movement and the Great White North, we go now to our next guest. Mary Ellen Douglas is the national organizer for Campaign Life Coalition. She joins us from Kingston in Ontario, Canada. Mary Ellen, thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
Now, in October of last year, there was a new law that passed in Ontario that restricts pro-lifers from protesting within 50 to 150 meters outside of abortion clinics, pharmacies, and doctors' offices. This new bubble zone law, as it's called, will it impact Canada's National March for Life this week?
No, it won't. Only in the technical phase of it. We will not pass the Morgenthaler obituary. The people in Ottawa still picket with outside of the limit. What it does do for them on a regular basis is they can't directly speak to the women where lives can be saved. But for the March for Life, we'll just reroute. A lot of streets in Ottawa will go a different way, but we'll be there. You know, we're pro-lifers. They give us lemon, you make lemonade.
There you go, and keep on moving forward. What are other pro-life concerns you have about Canada that our viewers should know about? Can you give us a sense of what's going on there?
Well, the fact that we have someone who is the Prime Minister who is very pro-abortion, doing his best to stop any type of pro-life activity. You may know that he's put in place restrictions on us receiving summer grant programs unless you attest to the fact that you are pro-abortion. This is how bad things are in Canada. And groups like Campaign Life Coalition said we will not sign that attestation. And as it turned out, things worked out fine because our people got together and made sure that we had the donations we need without the government to fund students. And many groups are doing that. They attacked the church as well, who had summer camps, anyone who had any pro-life position. And many of them have taken a strong stand to say, this is freedom of speech, this is our tax money, and we're not going to tolerate this. So hopefully we won't tolerate it with another election coming up next year with this Prime Minister.
Well, thank you for speaking up for life. The theme for Canada's National March for Life is pro-life all in. What's the message behind that theme?
Well, it means that as pro-lifers, we have to stay together on this. We can't be splitting up, doing different things all over. This is a march, a national march for life, so we want everybody to participate in it. The march has grown since it first began 21 years ago, and we've now seen more than 20,000 people coming to Ottawa for this. There are regional marches in each of the provinces where people who can't travel that far have the same ability to be there at the same time with us in unity across the country. And that's what the all in signifies, that we're all together.
That's great to hear. Mary Ellen, you've been involved in Canada's pro-life movement for over 40 years. I'm curious, what have you noticed about the pro-life movement today? What are new challenges and opportunities facing Canada?
Well, it may be surprising to say that the challenges I see now are not new. I just had the opportunity to go through the very old files from the 70s and 80s, and everything is pretty well the same. It's all coming back again. The letters we wrote in the early 80s, we could put out there now, because it's a whole new generation. They're using different vehicles with the internet, and our whole focus was on sending letters, and I didn't even have a fax machine when I started. I used to marvel at a fax machine, and now we progressed so much, but the message hasn't changed. This is a human being, is what we're saying now, and what we said in 1971 all the way through. And the object of trying to get MPs in Parliament who will stand up for life is still there. Each time we go around through an election, it becomes a little more difficult, especially when you have someone like Justin Trudeau at the helm. His father, Pierre Trudeau, was the one who brought in the abortion legislation, opened the floodgates to this in 1971. And then in 1988, the Supreme Court struck down the entire law. So we're in a state of lawlessness here, and there is no protection for the unborn child right up till birth.
Well, thank you for your work. Mary Ellen Douglas, National Organizer for Campaign Life Coalition.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
When we come back. A special group of sisters that are using their musical talents to promote a culture of life. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break.
There's not a mother in all the world who, when she picks up the life that has been born of her, that does not look up to the heavens to thank love itself for prolonging itself and making the world young again.
That is Venerable Fulton Sheen speaking on what makes a mother in a 1953 Life is Worth Living broadcast. We remember our biological, adoptive, and spiritual mothers as we celebrate Mother's Day this Sunday. We also remember Venerable Sheen's birthday celebrated this week. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Hadro. On May 25th, Ireland will vote on whether or not to lift the nation's 8th Amendment, which guarantees the right of life to both the mother and the child. Unfortunately, a popular band used their platform recently to encourage Irish voters to support abortion. The Irish rock band U2 wrote on Twitter last week, "Vote on May 25th," and included a Repeal the 8th picture. Repealing the 8th Amendment would mean allowing unrestricted access to abortion for the first 3 months of pregnancy in Ireland. This U2 message immediately faced pro-life pushback. Pro-life advocate Obianuju Ekiocha tweeted out a video of lead singer Bono talking about how it's important people have the right to live. Ekiocha pointed out the hypocrisy, writing, "Dear Bono, you talk about the right to live, so good to hear that. But then U2 spat on the right to life of the most innocent. Why?" Chris Stefanik, whom EWTN viewers will recognize from Real Life Catholic, also had a powerful response, tweeting back to U2, "You've turned your back on your Irish Catholic people fighting for a culture of life and human dignity at the most fundamental level." Let's all pray for the Emerald Isle, that voters will continue to recognize the inherent dignity of the unborn, and that Ireland can be a light for the rest of the world. St. Patrick, pray for us. Remember, you have a role to counter today's culture of death. Follow this week's call to action. Tell the Trump administration to direct the HHS department to update Title X regulations so Planned Parenthood is defunded. Send your message at prolifeweekly.com. We told you earlier in the show about Peru's March for Life this past weekend, how an estimated crowd of 800,000 people showed up to support life. Now we take you center stage to Peru's march and introduce you to a group of women religious who rallied the crowds. Peru's March for Life looks and sounds like no other.
People who have been in pro-life marches elsewhere have told us it's really a celebration of life, because there's like music and people are celebrating how we should life.
An energized crowd cheered for life on Saturday and for the pro-life song's Unlikely Messengers. Siervas took center stage, a band made up of religious sisters from the Peruvian convent Siervas del Plan de Dios, who all have formal instruction in music. Siervas translates to servants. The sisters say they also chose that name for their band because they hope to serve God with their musical gifts. They know they can be an unexpected group for some.
Sometimes there's a surprise. Sometimes they don't believe we're real. If there's a camera around us, people say, "Are you for real or are you actresses?"
But it's no sister act. These religious use their lyrics and musical instruments to transcend boundaries and reach people's hearts with life-affirming messages, like with their popular song, Hymn for Life.
I think it's a favorite. People say it's their favorite song. It's the hymn of joy transformed in a hymn of life, because life is joy.
The sisters are also releasing a new song aimed at women in crisis pregnancies called Give Me a Chance. It's about the dreams of a little boy or girl still in the womb.
Maybe the child is going to be an actor, be a songwriter. There's many dreams that our life can fulfill that we don't know yet. There's many possibilities.
Their songs clearly resonate with people. Siervas has skyrocketed in popularity, with some music videos gaining over 1 million views. They've been invited to perform at World Youth Day and for Pope Francis. And people reach out to the Peruvian sisters from around the globe.
It's people from Iceland, Australia, Africa, many people, even non-believers. We have atheists many times saying, I don't believe in God, but I like your song called Trusting God.
The band Siervas has discovered how to use their instruments in order to be an instrument for God. That's it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Until next time, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us anytime with questions, ideas, comments at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. I look forward to seeing you all here again next week. And remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.